Okay, so we will go for the continue with second law of thermodynamics, that is uh, class number 4. But before that, we will just have a look at the syllabus. So what all we have covered up till class number 3, we will just try to recall. We have finished uh, limitations of first law, heat engines, refrigerator, efficiency and COP, Kelvin-Planck statement, Clausius statement, second law of thermodynamics, equivalence of the statements of second law, perpetual motion machines, reversible process, factors that render processes irreversible, and Carnot cycle. So we are going to discuss, of course, this is all which we people have covered in class number 3, as well as reversed heat engine. Now there are two important propositions of Carnot cycle or Carnot theorem, or sometimes they are called as corollary of Carnot theorem also. So there are different books which give it in a different manner. So I have written all the possibilities which you find in different books for these two propositions. There is two propositions of Carnot cycle, the first one being Carnot theorem, and the second proposition is of course the corollary of Carnot theorem. And then we will be discussing certain problems in detail, which will throw more light into the aspects of second law of thermodynamics. Now the two propositions of Carnot cycle are, first is, of course this is a sentence which is being directly taken from the book. Why? Because the proposition wordings shouldn't change. So I'll just read it out and then we will try to analyze and see what actually it means to say. The first proposition is, it is impossible to construct an engine that operates between two given reservoirs and is more efficient than a reversible heat engine operating between the same two reservoirs. So we have two reservoirs. Between these two reservoirs there are two engines. One is non-reversible engine and one is reversible engine. So we cannot have an engine which is irreversible or non-reversible which can have an efficiency greater than the engine which is reversible. And these two engines, one is non-reversible and another one is reversible, both are operating between the same two reservoirs. This is what it means to say. So it is not possible, or it is impossible for have an engine which is non-reversible operating between two reservoirs to have an efficiency greater than the reversible engine which is again operating between the same two reservoirs. This is what it means to say. Now this first proposition is given in an alternate way in some textbooks, and of course it is nothing, these wordings are given as Carnot theorem in some textbooks. So it states that all engines operating between a given constant temperature source and a given constant temperature sink, none has a higher efficiency than a reversible engine. Means you take any two reservoirs, the reversible engine operating between these two reservoirs will have a highest efficiency as compared to any other engine which is non-reversible and operating between the same two reservoirs. That is what it means to say it is a Carnot theorem. Now if you can see, we will just understand what actually is a reversed heat engine and then move on to prove that what actually the Carnot theorem means to say. Now this reversed heat engine, one is hot reservoir, another one is cold reservoir. So I am having a heat engine which is operating between a hot reservoir and a cold reservoir, and this heat engine is giving W as the work output, that is W is equal to Q1 minus Q2. So since this heat engine is reversible, so I will reverse the transfer of heat which is taking place from in a reverse manner, that is Q2 is the heat being extracted from the cold reservoir and Q1 is the quantity of heat which is set to the hot reservoir, and Q1 is equal to Q2 plus W, and W is the work input, Q2 is the heat extracted from the cold reservoir. So this is the way reversed heat engine operates. Now if you can see, we try to recall it back, which we people have studied in the last class session. So the efficiency of a reversible heat engine in which heat is received solely at T1 is found to be having a maximum efficiency. So it is nothing but a Carnot efficiency, which is purely dependent upon the temperature of the source and the temperature of the sink. And this reversible efficiency or maximum efficiency is T1 minus T2 by T1. So we have recollected what actually is a reversible heat engine. Now we will take up two heat engines. These two heat engines are named as A and B. If you can just see this diagram, we have HEA and HEB. So there are two heat engines. These two heat engines are operating between the source T1 and the sink T2. So the source is at temperature T1 and the sink is at a temperature T2. So Q1A is the quantity of heat supplied to heat engine A from the source T1, and Q1B is the quantity of heat which is supplied from the source T1, but it is supplied to heat engine B. Now Q2B is the quantity of heat rejected by heat engine A to the sink T2, whereas Q2B is the quantity of heat rejected by heat engine B to sink T2. WA is the work output from heat engine A, and WB is the work output from engine B. Now if we can see, HEA and HEB are two engines operating between the given source at temperature T1 and the given sink at temperature T2. So we have two engines. Work output WA is from engine A, heat engine A, and WB is the work output from engine B. Both are operating between the same source and the same sink. That is what this diagram indicates. Now suppose let heat engine A be any engine and heat engine B be any reversible heat engine. So we have just taken two engines, heat engine A and heat engine B. What we means to say is heat engine A is any engine. It is an irreversible engine. It is not a reversible engine. And heat engine B is any reversible heat engine. Now we have proved that the heat engine B is more efficient than heat engine A. But suppose we assume in the beginning that heat engine B is not more efficient than heat engine A. In fact, heat engine A is having an efficiency greater than heat engine B. So initially let us assume that heat engine A is, which is not a reversible heat engine, is having an efficiency greater than the efficiency of heat engine B. Let us assume it like that. Now what will happen is Q1A and Q1B, if it is equal to Q1, say same quantities of heat are being supplied to both these heat engines A and B. Now since we have efficiency of A to be greater than efficiency of B, now what is heat engine A? Heat engine A is any heat engine. It is not a reversible heat engine, whereas heat engine B is a reversible heat engine. In fact, actually heat engine B which is reversible, will be more efficient than heat engine A. This is what we want to prove. Suppose we assume that heat engine A, which is not a reversible heat engine, is having an efficiency greater than heat engine B, and if we disprove that efficiency of A is not greater than efficiency of B, then definitely it means to say that efficiency of B is greater than efficiency of A. So we have assumed that efficiency of A is greater than efficiency of B, wherein heat engine A is a non-reversible heat engine, whereas heat engine B is a reversible heat engine, and both are being supplied by equal quantities of heat, that is Q1A is equal to Q1B is equal to Q1. Now since this efficiency, the general formula of efficiency is nothing but the work done divided by heat supplied. So this efficiency A can be written as WA divided by Q1A, and efficiency B can be written as WB divided by Q1B, and WA by Q1A is greater than WB by Q1B, hence WA is greater than WB. So if we assume that the efficiency of engine A is greater than the efficiency of engine B, the meaning is the work done by engine A would definitely be greater than work done by engine B, provided the heat supplied is equal. What is the heat supplied? Heat supplied is Q1A to engine A and Q1B to engine B, and both are equal, that is nothing but Q1. Now if we can see, suppose this heat engine B is a reversible heat engine, whereas heat engine A is not a reversible heat engine. So I am going to reverse heat engine B, in the sense I am going to reverse the direction of the transfer of heat. Now this heat engine is either operating as a heat pump or a refrigerator, wherein WB is the work input to the heat engine B because it is reversed. And Q2B, instead of giving to the sink T2, the Q2B heat is getting extracted and being sent as Q1B back to the source. Now this heat engine A, which is not reversible, it continues to operate in the same direction because it is not a reversible, it cannot be reversed. So heat engine A continues to take Q1A quantity of heat from source T1 and send Q2A quantity of heat to the sink T2. So what will happen now? Let heat engine B be reversed, and heat engine B is since heat engine B is a reversible heat engine. So the ultimate diagram becomes like this, whichever is being shown. Now since we have already proved that the work output from engine A is greater than work output from engine B, so definitely part of the work from WA, which is equal to WB, may be fed to drive the reversed heat engine. So you can see here, this WA is greater than WB. So the part of WA which is equal to WB, that will be supplied to this reversed heat engine. Why? Because this heat engine, when it is reversed, it becomes a power absorbing machine. Now I am supplying heat work to run this reversed heat engine. But we already know that your Q1A is equal to Q1B is equal to Q1. So what happens now is, the heat discharged by engine B may be supplied directly to engine A. You can just see here. Since Q1B is equal to Q1A, I will just remove away this source, because whatever is Q1B, I will directly put it as Q1A back to this heat engine. I can do like that. Now the source T1 can simply be eliminated. Now it looks like this. Q1B is equal to Q1, Q1A is equal to Q1, Q1B is the heat rejected from this reversed heat engine, Q2B is the heat extracted by this reversed heat engine, WB is the work output to this heat engine, WA is the work output from the heat engine A, and Q2A is of course the heat rejected to the sink. So what happens here, the result is, the combination of all this tells us that it is exchanging heat with a single reservoir. So since it is exchanging heat with a single reservoir, it is going to violate Kelvin-Planck statement. So if it violates Kelvin-Planck statement, what Kelvin-Planck statement tells us, that if you cannot operate a heat engine which is exchanging heat with a single reservoir and giving a work output. So what is the work output here? We all know that WA is greater than WB. So whatever is the difference between WA minus WB is the total work output which we people are getting by operating a non-reversed heat engine A in combination with a reversible heat engine B. So our main motto of assumption of the efficiency of engine A being greater than efficiency of engine B is wrong. So the meaning is, if efficiency of A greater than efficiency of engine B is wrong, then the meaning is efficiency of B has to be greater than efficiency of engine A. So if we go back and see what is our first proposition, The alternate way of first proposition tells us it is nothing but a Carnot theorem. It states that of all engines operating between a given constant temperature source and a given constant temperature sink, none has a higher efficiency than a reversible engine. This is what it means to say. So we have already proved it. Now we are into two propositions. Of course, this is the first proposition. This is the alternate way of giving that particular proposition. If we just go back and see what we people have decided, see, we have decided to discuss both the propositions. The first proposition is of course named as Carnot theorem, which we people have discussed just now, and the second proposition is of course corollary of Carnot theorem. So we will be discussing what is corollary of Carnot theorem. We will just go and directly to that particular slide, and I will just read out what is second proposition. Of course, this second proposition is given in some different way in certain books as corollary of the Carnot theorem, but before that we will discuss what actually is the original statement of second proposition and then move on to the corollary of Carnot theorem. All engines that operate on the Carnot cycle between two given constant temperature reservoirs have the same efficiency. Two constant temperature reservoirs in the sense, two reservoirs in the sense, one is source and another one is sink. Suppose there are a number of engines operating between two reservoirs, then all will have the same efficiency. That is what he means to say. Now we will just disregarding the alternate way in which this second proposition is being proposed in certain textbooks, and it is usually being named as corollary of Carnot theorem. The efficiency of all reversible heat engines operating between the same temperature levels is the same. The meaning is, suppose there are two reservoirs, the source, two reservoirs are source and sink. The source of course is at a very high temperature, that I name it as T1, and the sink is at a lower temperature, that's temperature at a little T2. Then there are say number of reversible heat engines which are operating between these two reservoirs. Then all those reversible heat engines which are operating between temperatures T1 and T2, all will have the same efficiency. This is what he means to say. So some textbooks give you this second proposition as all engines that operate on the Carnot cycle between two given constant temperature reservoirs have same efficiency. This is one way of defining it. And the second way, or alternate way of defining it, is nothing but the corollary of Carnot theorem, which tells that the efficiency of all reversible heat engines operating between the same temperature levels is the same. This is what it means to say. Now this is the same diagram which we people have discussed. This is of course source T1 and sink is T2, and we are having two heat engines. One is heat engine A and another one is heat engine B, and Q1A is the quantity of heat which is taken from the source T1, and Q2 quantity of heat is rejected to the sink T2, and this heat engine B takes Q1B quantity of heat from the source and rejects Q2B quantity of heat to the sink, and WA is the work output from heat engine A and WB is the work output from heat engine B. Now let both the heat engines A and B both be reversible. Let us assume, but if both heat engines A and B are reversible, both will have the same efficiencies. Now suppose we assume that any one of the engines is having an efficiency greater than the other, and if we disprove this particular statement, then it means to say that both efficiencies are equal. Now let us assume that efficiency A is greater than efficiency B, similar to the procedure which is outlined. If heat engine B is reversed to run, say, as a heat pump using some part of the work output WA of engine A, we see that the combined system of heat pump B and engine A becomes a PMM2. I will just see, this is the particular. I have reversed heat engine B. I am keeping heat engine A as heat engine A. I am not reversing it. Now heat engine B starts operating like a heat pump, and WB is the quantity of work input needed to run this heat pump, and Q2B is the quantity of heat which is extracted from this sink and sent to as Q1B to the source. Of course, the source is not present. So when Q1B is equal to Q1 and Q1A is equal to Q1, then whatever heat is rejected from engine B is given again back to engine A. So Q1A is equal to Q1. Now what happens is, suppose part of the work which the engine A generates is being utilized in order to run the heat engine B. Now this particular heat pump or the reversed heat engine B rejects Q1 quantity of heat and gives back again to A. But the net result is in such a manner that WA is greater than WB, hence WA minus WE is the net work output coming out from this combined system of heat engine A and reversed heat engine B. Reversed heat engine B in the sense it is a heat pump. So reversed heat engine B is consuming work. Heat engine A of course is developing certain work. So what it actually says that this combination is giving a work output of WA minus WB, net work output of WA minus WB, whereas it is exchanging heat with a single reservoir. Means it is violating Kelvin-Planck statement. So when it violates Kelvin-Planck statement, so if we assume that efficiency A cannot be greater than efficiency B, similarly if we assume efficiency B greater than efficiency A and reverse heat engine A, so instead of reversing heat engine B, I will reverse heat engine A and keep heat engine B as it is. So what will happen? We will again get the result as the same, in the sense I will remove away this sink and again reject back the same thing back to the. So we can prove that this particular efficiency B greater than A is not holding good, as well as efficiency A greater than B is also not holding good. So the only alternative left with us is that efficiency of A is equal to efficiency of B. Now, since the efficiencies of all reversible engines operating between the same heat reservoirs are the same, the efficiency of a reversible engine is independent of the nature or the amount of the working substance undergoing the cycle. Now, if you take up the efficiency calculation of any reversible heat engine, it is purely dependent upon only two temperatures. One is the temperature of the source and another one is the temperature of the sink. So 1 minus T2 by T1 or T1 minus T2 divided by T1. This is the formula which we people are using in order to calculate the efficiency of a heat engine, reversible heat engine. So if we know only the temperatures of the source and the sink, we are able to calculate the efficiency. The meaning of this statement is that it is whatever may be the working substance which is used in order to operate that engine. So if the temperature of the source and the temperature of the sink are known, we are definitely be able to calculate whatever is the efficiency for heat engine. It is not dependent upon the working substance. That is what it means to say. So we have discussed what actually is the second proposition. Second proposition of course is the corollary of Carnot theorem, and this second proposition is also given in some alternate way in certain textbooks, but almost both corollary of Carnot theorem and the second proposition both give the same meaning. So we have proved the first proposition and the second proposition. So we will just go back and see what actually we have planned for this particular class session and then try to end up. Okay, problems. So we have discussed both the propositions of Carnot cycle. One is Carnot theorem and another one is corollary of Carnot theorem. And then we will move on directly to problems. I will just read out the problem and we will try to understand what actually is the given data and then we will move on to some problems which are quite peculiar in order to understand. I'll just read out the problem first. A Carnot cycle operates between the source and the sink temperatures of 250 degrees centigrade and minus 15 degrees centigrade. If the system receives 90 kilojoule from the source, find the efficiency of the system. Number 2, the net work transfer. Number 3, heat rejected to the sink. So he is expecting us to calculate three entities. One is efficiency of the system, the net work transfer, and the heat rejected to the sink. And he has given two temperatures. One is temperature of the source, which is 250 degrees centigrade, and the second one is the temperature of the sink, that is minus 15 degrees centigrade. And if the system receives 90 kilojoule from the source, this is the value of heat which it is receiving. Now we will first just convert this temperature of the source and the temperature of the sink to Kelvin, that is 250 plus 273 is 523 Kelvin, and T2 of course is minus 15 plus 273, that is 258 Kelvin, and Q1 quantity that which is being supplied to this heat engine is 90 kilojoule. Now the Carnot efficiency is 1 minus T2 by T1, that is if I substitute T2 and T1 value, which we already know it, we are getting an efficiency of 50.6%. Of course this is an highest efficiency. Now if we see further what actually is the net work transfer, it is the general formula for Carnot efficiency is work done divided by heat supplied, and heat supplied is of course Q1 and work done is W. So the net work transfer will be Carnot efficiency multiplied by the heat supplied, and so when 90 kilojoule of heat is being supplied, so 45.54 kilojoule of work is being done. By cross multiplying we will directly get it. So the heat rejected to the sink, that is Q2 is equal to Q1 minus W. If you can see this W, if you try to recall, W is nothing but Q1 minus Q2, and hence since we know what is W and Q1 was already given, so Q2 would be 44.46. We look into some second problem. This is a bit more peculiar. A cyclic heat engine operates between a source temperature of 1000 degrees centigrade and a sink temperature of 40 degrees centigrade. Find the least rate of heat rejection per kilowatt net output of the engine. This is what he asks us to calculate. Now it is a cyclic heat engine. Source temperature is 1000 degrees centigrade. Of course we'll have to convert it in Kelvin, and the sink temperature is 40 degrees centigrade. The problem is expecting us to find the least rate of heat rejection per kilowatt net output of the engine, per kilowatt net output of the engine. So a heat engine is going to give a work output. That work output itself is 1 kilowatt. That is what he means to say. Now of course this is the heat engine. The heat engine is taking Q1 quantity of heat and from the source, and it is rejecting Q2 quantity of heat to the sink, and W of course is the work output which is coming out from this heat engine, and Q1 minus Q2 is nothing but 1 kilowatt. This is what the diagram clearly shows. But here, why this W is equal to Q1 minus Q2 is 1 kilowatt? Because I just discussed it. The problem is expecting us to find the least rate of heat rejection per kilowatt net output of the engine. So we are initially assuming that the work output from the engine itself is 1 kilowatt. Now we are converting the temperature of the source, which is given in degrees centigrade. We are converting it in Kelvin, so it will be 1000 plus 273, that is 1273 Kelvin, and the temperature of the sink is 40 plus 273, that is 313 Kelvin. So heat rejection will be least when efficiency is maximum. See, suppose W is Q1 minus Q2. This we have clearly understood it. So if Q2 goes on reducing, then Q1, by keeping Q1 constant, then Q1 minus Q2 goes on increasing, which is nothing but W. So if Q2 goes on reducing, W goes on increasing. Now this heat rejection will be the least when efficiency is maximum. The meaning is value of W will be maximum for any given value of Q1. That is what it means to say. Now when will this efficiency be maximum? The efficiency will be maximum when it is a Carnot engine or a reversible heat engine. So the general formula for maximum efficiency of or reversible efficiency is dependent purely on the temperature and not on the working fluid which we people are using. So it is 1 minus T2 by T1. We have already converted the value of T2 and T1 in Kelvin, so we are substituting those values and getting a maximum efficiency of 75.4%. But we already know what actually this maximum efficiency is, can also be defined as W net divided by Q1, that is W net divided by Q1 is equal to maximum efficiency is equal to 0.754. So what is the work output which we people have considered? We have considered the work output as 1 kilowatt. Now value of maximum efficiency is 0.754. So Q1 is equal to W net divided by 0.754. This is equal to 1 divided by 0.754, which is 1.326 kilowatt. So when Q1 supplied is 1.326 kilowatt, and if it is a reversible heat engine having maximum efficiency, then the work output will be 1 kilowatt. Now question arises how to calculate Q2, because the problem is expecting us to find okay, we will continue. So Q2 is the quantity of heat which is rejected. So Q2 is 0.326 kilowatt. So Q2 will be Q1 minus W net, that is 1.326 minus 1, that is 0.326 kilowatt. So the least rate of heat rejection is 0.326 kilowatt. We will go on to the third problem. It is related to refrigerator. We have discussed two problems on heat engine. So we will move on to a problem which is related to refrigerator. A domestic food refrigerator maintains a temperature of minus 12 degrees centigrade. Ambient air temperature is 35 degrees centigrade. If heat leaks into the freezer at a continuous rate of 2 kilojoule per second, joule per second is nothing but watt, determine the least power necessary to pump this heat out continuously. This is what is the expectation. So the power, least power input will be required for an a refrigerator, provided its efficiency is maximum. So we have a domestic food refrigerator wherein it needs to maintain a temperature of minus 12, and the ambient air temperature is of course 35, and heat is leaking into the freezer continuously from this 35 degrees centigrade atmospheric temperature into the refrigerator, which has to be maintained at minus 12 degrees centigrade. Every second 2 kilojoule of heat is entering. So it is expecting us to, the problem is expecting us to determine the least power necessary. if we take up this heat engine which is reversible, if we take up the heat engine which is reversible, W is the quantity of work which is an input, Q2 is the quantity of heat which is extracted from the freezer, and Q1 is the quantity of heat which is rejected back to the surroundings. Now this freezer is at -12, so it is 261 Kelvin, and the ambient air temperature is T1, that is 35. So 273 plus 35 is 308. So the rate of heat leakage into the freezer is 2 kilojoule per second. This is of course a diagrammatic representation telling that 2 kilojoule per second is entering into the freezer continuously. Now what will happen for minimum power requirement? Q2 by T2 is equal to Q1 by T1. So Q2 is of course the heat which is entering into the freezer, and that has to be removed out. So Q2 will be nothing but 2 kilojoule per second. So you are observing here that Q1 is equal to Q2 by T2 into T1, and Q2 is being substituted as 2, and T2 is 261, and T1 is 308. So Q1 will be 2.36 kilojoule per second. So W will be Q1 minus Q2, that is 2.36 minus 2, that is 0.36 kilojoule per second, that is 0.36 kilowatt. So the least power required to pump the heat continuously is 0.36 kilowatt. This is how people have. So this particular problem is dependent upon a reverse heat engine which is operating as a refrigerator and is having minimum power requirement. If the power requirement is minimum, then the efficiency is maximum, and if the efficiency is maximum, the meaning is it is a reversible heat engine which is operating as a refrigerator. So we have discussed one problem on reversible heat engine operating as a domestic food refrigerator. We have discussed one problem on cyclic heat engine wherein we have found out what is the least rate of heat rejection when the efficiency is maximum. And we have discussed one problem which is quite simple in nature, only to calculate the efficiency, the net work transfer, and the heat rejected to the sink. Now we will move on to another problem. An ice making plant produces ice at atmospheric pressure and at 0 degrees centigrade from water. The mean temperature of the cooling water circulating through the condenser of the refrigerating machine is 17 degrees centigrade. Evaluate the minimum electrical work in kilowatt hour required to produce 1 ton of ice. Of course, if we convert 1 ton of ice, it is as good as 1000 kgs. So enthalpy of fusion of ice at atmospheric pressure is 333.5 kilojoule per kg. That data is directly given to you. So now what is the enthalpy of fusion? It is the quantity of heat which should be removed from ice at 0 degree centigrade, removed from water which is at 0 degree centigrade to form ice at 0 degree centigrade. Now 0 degree centigrade water is being fed, and enthalpy of fusion is being removed by this ice making plant from that water. For every kg, 333.5 kilojoule is removed, and 1 ton of ice is being prepared. So the meaning is 333.5 into 1000 kgs. That is the quantity of heat which has to be extracted, and the cooling water is being required in order to operate this ice making plant, and through the circulating water through the condenser refrigerating machine, that itself is 17 degrees centigrade. So in order to evaluate the minimum electrical work in kilowatt hour, that has to be evaluated. Now this of course is R, that is the refrigerator, which requires a work input of W1, and Q2 quantity of heat is extracted, and sent to T1, that is 290 Kelvin. This 290 Kelvin is nothing but 17 degrees centigrade. So 273 plus 17 is 290. And T2 of course is the temperature of the thing from where the heat is getting extracted, that is from water, and that itself is 273 Kelvin. So COP of Carnot means for a refrigerator of course is T2 divided by T1 minus T2. Why it is T2 by T1 minus T2? Because if you recall the formula for COP, it is desired output divided by work input. So if we write that same formula in terms of heat, it will be Q2 divided by Q1 minus Q2. Or if you write it in terms of temperature, for Carnot COP of course is T2 divided by T1 minus T2. So if I substitute the values of T1 and T2, I get the COP for Carnot as 16. This COP of Carnot can also be written as Q2 divided by W. So we get the value of W as 5.8 kilowatt hour. So why do we get the value as 5.8? Because you see 333.5 kilojoule is the enthalpy of fusion, which has to be removed from the water at 0 degree centigrade for every kg of water. But we are not having only 1 kg of water, we are having 1 ton of ice. It requires, of course, there is no mass transfer taking place, so we require 1000 kg of water. So 333.5 into 1000 is the quantity of heat which is removed from 1000 kg of ice, 1000 kg of water. So 3600 is of course the 60 seconds comprised together to form 1 minute and 60 minutes comprised together to form 1 hour. So it is 3600, so it is 5.8 kilowatt hour. So there are 3 engines are in operation. Each of them is supplied with 1000 kilojoule per second of heat, and the source and the sink temperatures are 577 degree centigrade and 152 degree centigrade. The heat rejection of each is given as 800 kilowatt, 500 kilowatt and 200 kilowatt. Determine whether each case represents a reversible, an irreversible or impossible heat engines. Now suppose we will just recall what actually is a heat engine. A heat engine is of course taking, we'll just go back to some diagram and see what actually is a heat engine. Okay, we'll just explain it from you. What is this? This is a heat engine. Q1 is the quantity of heat taking. W is the quantity of work output which is coming in. And Q2 quantity is the heat which is being rejected by this heat engine. Now if we come back to our statement of the problem, there are 3 engines. All these 3 engines are being supplied with the same quantity of heat, that is 1000 kilojoule per second, that is 1000 kilowatt. The source and the sink temperatures are 577 degree centigrade and 152 degree centigrade. So T1 is 577 plus 273. Of course, we need to convert this in Kelvin, so we will add 273. And T2 of course is 152 degree centigrade, so even that we will be converting it in Kelvin, that is 152 plus 273. So there are 3 different heat rejection rates which are being given. So first engine, which is again operating at these between the same 2 source and sink temperatures, it is taking an input of 1000 kilowatt, and but the heat which it is rejecting is 800 kilowatt. There is a second engine which is rejecting 500 kilowatt, and there is a third engine which is rejecting 200 kilowatt. So determine whether each case represents a reversible, irreversible or impossible heat engine. That is what it means to say. Now we will take up the first heat engine, TH minus TC divided by TH, or 1 minus TC by TH. So 425, 850. Of course, this is the temperatures which we people have taken. So maximum efficiency would be 50%. What is maximum efficiency? It is dependent only on this temperatures. So if I take 273 plus 577, I get 850 and if I take 152 plus 273, I get 425. Now, of course, this is maximum efficiency, which is dependent upon only these two temperatures. So we get a maximum efficiency of 50%. Now we will take up the first case. In the first engine, 800 kilowatt is rejected and it is taking 1000 kilowatt as an input. So what will be the efficiency? Heat supplied minus heat rejected divided by heat supplied. So it will be 1000 minus 800 divided by 1000. The efficiency is 20%. Now since this efficiency of this heat engine, first heat engine, which is rejecting 800 kilowatt, its efficiency is 20% and it is less than 50%. So if the efficiency of any engine is less than the maximum efficiency, it is an irreversible heat engine. So the first heat engine, which is rejecting 800 kilowatt of heat and having an efficiency of 20%, its efficiency is less than 50%, so it is an irreversible heat engine. The second heat engine is rejecting 500 kilowatt, so that also is being supplied by 1000 kilowatt of heat. So 1000 minus 500 divided by 1000, it is 50%. Now this efficiency of this second heat engine, which is rejecting 500 kilowatt of heat, its efficiency is 50% and its efficiency is equal to the efficiency of the reversible heat engine. So if both efficiencies are equal, the meaning is the second engine, which is taking 1000 kilowatt of heat and rejecting 500 kilowatt of heat, its efficiency is 50%, which is equal to the efficiency of a reversible engine. Hence, all reversible engines have same efficiency. Percent. So the uh, third engine will have an efficiency greater than the maximum efficiency. So this engine is impossible. How can an engine reject 200 kilowatt of heat by taking 1000 kilowatt of heat as an input and develop maximum amount of power and show an efficiency of 80%, which is greater than the maximum efficiency of 50%. So this is impossible engine. The last problem, such kind of a problem, people have solved it for heat engine, but we will be solving a similar kind of a problem for a refrigerating machine. An inventor claims to have developed a refrigerating machine which can maintain the refrigerated space at minus 6 degrees centigrade while the room temperature is 27 degrees centigrade and has a COP of 8.5. Find whether this claim is correct or not. This is what is the statement of the problem. Now the refrigerated space is to be maintained at minus 6 degrees centigrade while the room temperature is 27 degrees centigrade and the refrigerating machine which is operating has got a COP of 8.5. So the problem expects us to check whether whatever the inventor is claiming a COP of 8.5 operating between two temperatures 27 degrees centigrade and minus 6 degrees centigrade, whether that is correct or not. This is what he is expecting us to do. Now the COP of the refrigerator working under reversed Carnot cycle is given by, I will just calculate the COP of the Carnot. So TL divided by TH minus TL. So minus 6 plus 273 is 267 and I will be converting 273 to 27 degrees centigrade also to Kelvin by adding 273. This is 300 minus of 267. So we get a COP of 8.09. But the inventor is claiming that the COP is 8.5, which is greater than the COP of the Carnot. So we will definitely tell just by substituting the temperatures of the source and the sink, we are able to tell whether his claim is correct or not. So we are getting a maximum COP of 8.09, whereas the inventor is claiming a COP of 8.5, which is not possible at all, which is greater than the Carnot COP. So his claim is not correct. So of course, this is the end of your 4th class session. So we people have discussed 3-4 problems and have got more understanding regarding the two propositions of Carnot cycle, first proposition and the second proposition. Of course, the first proposition is the Carnot theorem and the second proposition is the corollary of the Carnot theorem, which we have proved it theoretically. And we have also discussed certain problems regarding the Carnot cycle, reversed Carnot cycle, as well as certain reversed heat engines operating as a heat pump or a refrigerator also we people have solved. We have got good know-how regarding things. So we are left up with one small topic that is the thermodynamic temperature scale. So that we will be discussing it in the next class session. So anyway, thank you very much. So we will be ending up class number 4 here itself.
Yes. So, good evening, friends. I am Vivek Tiwari. Good evening, friends. I am Vivek Tiwari, your class instructor for metal casting. While the welding part is being handled by Kittur sir, you know that. So, with that point of view, I am going to teach or complete the portion of the third unit. So, before this lockdown period, we were able to complete about 2 chapters.